Good morning, Hello, I'm back again. This time I'm going to be talking about my TBR for romance books, recent updates, books I've read that were recommended to me through Destiny, Haley, and Sunny's Book Nook. And also a few Christmas books that I haven't mentioned in past Christmas videos. So the first book that I wanted to talk about is The Match by Sarah Adams. As I mentioned in my end of the year wrap-up, Sarah Adams is one of my favorite authors this year, and she writes a lot of romance books. And the thing I liked the best about this book is the disability representation, because the main female character, Evie, she has epilepsy and she runs a service dog company, and this 10-year-old girl sets up a meeting with her company behind her father's back, and that's how our couple, Evie and Jake meet. Sam is the 10-year-old daughter who has epilepsy. So I just love how the relationship builds up between Evie and Sam and Jake and the family that they form. It's really adorable. The next book in this TBR that I wanted to talk about is Bridget Jones's Diary. This book was mentioned in a video that I watched from A Book Olive, where it was her monthly wrap-up from last year, but I can't remember which month. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link her playlist of TBRs and wrap-ups in the description box so you can find the video and watch her review for yourself. This book was the book that inspired the 1990s rom-com of the same name that has Hugh Grant and, is it Scarlett Johansson? I can't remember who was in the movie. But basically, this is a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice that is set in the 1990s, and Bridget Jones's character works at a publishing company and she's really struggling in her job. So this is like how she gets through all of her hardships through keeping a journal of keeping her New Year's resolutions. So this book takes place over the course of a year, and obviously, since this is a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice, Bridget Jones is supposed to be Elizabeth Bennet, and then Hugh Grant's character is Mr. Darcy, and he's obviously reminiscent of Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice. So I really, basically, just like the romantic buildup in between Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth, I liked the romantic buildup between Bridget and Darcy. So if you like Pride and Prejudice, or if you have seen the movie this book is based on and want to read the book that inspired the movie, I suggest that you pick this book up. And if you have seen the movie, please let me know if it is good, because I still need to watch it. The next book that I wanted to talk about is I'll Get Back to You, which is a female-female Christmas romance. And I really enjoyed this book and the setting. This is set in, like, a diner. I don't remember what state it's supposed to be set in, but in all the female-female romances I read, or any romance I read, I just love how the dynamic between the couples work. And I also like books that don't have miscommunication. In this book, the couple had very good communication. And another romance book I'm going to talk about in a minute, Daydream by Hannah Grace, I'll talk about that book in a minute. But I really like this book, and I gave it 3.75 stars. I also wanted to talk about Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is the latest installment in the Maple Hill series, and it focuses on Holly and Henry. Henry is the captain of the hockey team, and he has trouble in school, so Hallie ends up being his tutor because she's really tight with the professor of this particular class that Henry's having trouble with. So I wouldn't really call them academic rivals, but it's definitely an education-related romance because Hallie is Henry's tutor. And this book was perfect because there's no miscommunication trope. That's the worst trope ever in a romance book. I hate it. And they had great communication. And the disability representation in this book is also great. Holly is neurodivergent. Henry and Holly's little sister Gigi have ADHD. And Henry's roommate Robbie is in a wheelchair, and he is constantly in contact with the housing authority in town trying to find a wheelchair accessible house that he can get into on his own so he can have his own place instead of living with roommates. So I gave this book 4.75 stars for all of the things I just mentioned, and it is my favorite book in the Maple Hill series. And if there is ever a spin-off book about Holly and Henry, I will definitely read it. The next book that I wanted to talk about in this video is Liar Mouth by John Waters. This is by the guy who directed the Hairspray movie, and it's like a dark romance book. Like, I tried to get into a dark romance book earlier this fall called My Dark Vanessa, but I couldn't get behind that relationship just because of the age gap. This romance seemed a little bit more believable for me, probably because the girl was not 16 and the guy was not in his late 40s, so it was a little bit more digestible for me than My Dark Vanessa. So I gave Liar Mouth 4 stars on Goodreads and a B. The next book I wanted to talk about is Just Like Us by Marlee McFarlane. I read this before Thanksgiving, and it was my first book by Marlee McFarlane. It was recommended to me by Rachel, and also Haley Pham has also hyped up this author, Marlee McFarlane. And her writing is really good, and I really liked the chemistry between these two characters. But in the second book that I read by her, which is called Between Us, which is set on the set of a reality TV show, I just did not like the relationship in this book, because basically this TV show, the guy who wrote it basically wrote it based on his friends and their relationships, and it causes drama in the friend group. And I just thought the main guy character was kind of a jerk, and his relationship with the main girl character was, like, not very good at all. So I gave Between Us a C, and Just Like Us a B. The next romance book I wanted to mention is not another love song. This was also mentioned in, I believe, I think Rachel read this, and also Destiny and Sarah. So this book is by Julie Soto. I read a book by her last spring called Forget Me Not, which I gave 3.5 stars to. I gave this book 4.5 stars because it is a romance between two musicians, and I love how the relationship builds up. The romantic tension builds between them personally and professionally, because they use their music as a way to get out their romantic frustrations, which I thought was really interesting. And I really just loved this book. And Julie Soto is coming out with a new release next spring, and I'm very excited to read it. It's her first fantasy book, so I'm excited to see what she does with that. And apparently, she is not the only published author who writes fan fiction that I know, because Ali Hazelwood also writes a lot of fan fiction that's based on Star Wars, I think. Rilo. And Julie Soto apparently also has fanfiction.net account. Not fanfiction, AO3. So I don't know what characters like these are supposed to represent, but I really love the characters in Not Another Love Song. and I would be interested to see her fan fiction, and also Allie Hazelwood's. The next book I want to talk about is Rebecca Yaros's romantic debut. This is the same author who wrote Fourth Wing and The Things We Leave Unfinished. And so to me, this is a modern day version of The Notebook, but the main difference between this book and The Notebook is that our main male protagonist is not abusive and controlling like Noah is in The Notebook. And I just love his relationship with Allie, who is the main girl. Allie is a ballerina, and the relationship with Allie and the main guy's little sister, the main guy's name is Hudson. I forget what the little sister's name is, but their dynamic is very cute too. So I gave Variations a B+. The last book I wanted to talk about is Darling Venom. Destiny, Sarah, and Haley have all read this book. Rachel. Haley might have read it too. I don't really remember, but I know Destiny and Sarah have definitely read it. This is another dark romance book. And it's about two high school kids who are really depressed, and they have a meeting on a roof of their school to try to get each other to get talks out of committed suicide. But this lasts for about a year. They're sophomores in high school, so this lasts until the spring of their junior year, and then the main guy dies, and then out of grief and trauma, the older brother and the main girl get together, and I just didn't like that. I just didn't like how they were bonded by their trauma. I thought that the way that they focused their relationship around that was disgusting. The same thing also happens in How to End a Love Story, and that's the thing I like the least about that book. I also got that book as a Christmas gift from Kathleen, so I'm going to be reviewing that book in the Christmas book haul video too. Chandler Ainsley recently posted a video about the Goodreads romance nominations for the Goodreads Choice Awards, and I will link that video in the description as well. But I would like to say that I agree with what she said about how there's not good representation of different relationships in the people who are represented. I love the books that won. I have read all of them. I have given all of them probably between 4 and 5 stars. But the two books that I felt were shafted, which were This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan and Daydream, which I just raved about a couple minutes ago, by Hannah Grace. I feel like these books were shafted for the Goodreads Choice Awards because I think most of the people who vote in these awards are people who are in their teens and early to mid-20s. I'm in my late 30s. I love these books regardless of how old the characters are, and I love how the various relationships build up. But the thing about This Could Be Us by Kenny Ryan is it focuses on Soledad and Josiah, who have been married for 20 years, and they're in the middle of a divorce. And what I like the best about This Could Be Us is focuses about how they could be co-parents, kind of like how Ross and Rachel were raising Emma during the end of Friends. They weren't together, but they were taking care of Emma together in the same place, even though they weren't married. I mean, this is a little bit different because Soledad and Josiah are divorced, but they kind of have to keep on good terms with each other because they own their own business. They work together in the same restaurant that they own together. So that's why I feel that this book deserved more than a second glance for the Goodreads Choice Awards, because I think all kinds of relationships should be represented in romance books, not just early romance of kids who are just first starting to fall in love. Like, most of the books that won are like Just for the Summer or Funny Story. Funny Story was the winner, which I'm very happy about because it was one of my favorite romance books of this year, and it's my favorite Emily Henry book, mostly because the couple is so new girl coded that I couldn't get over it, and that's what I love so much about it. But, like, as I was just saying, like, all of these couples are in their late teens or early 20s, and with Soledad and Josiah, they're in their early 40s, and, like, I feel like that could have gotten better. That's why I feel like that book should have been in the top 10, and then for Daydream, as I just said, the disability representation was great because Holly was neurodivergent, and Henry had ADHD, and you don't see many couples like that in books, and while all of the couples that were in these books were very great and their relationships were very well developed, I just feel like more disability representation needs to be shown in romance books like was shown in Daydream. That's what I really appreciate Hannah Grace for. And also, a book by Abby Jimenez that should have been counted. I don't know if this was because it was nominated last year or the previous year, but Yours Truly had really good representation of anxiety. And maybe, I mean, Just for the Summer was in the top 10, but maybe Yours Truly should have been in the top 10 instead. I mean, I loved Emmett and Justin and Just for the Summer, but I just loved how in Yours Truly, Jacob was very open about his anxiety and his coping mechanisms, and that's how he got Britt to really work with him to understand situations. So that's my that's my feedback on the Goodreads Choice Awards for romance. If you would like to watch the videos I talked about, the playlist for Olive's videos and Chandler's video about the Goodreads Choice Awards will be in the description box below. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.